मैम लिंक अगर चैट बॉक्स में
Okay, so it's 3 now. Let me not waste time. May I request everyone to switch on their cameras again? Sangeeta, Zainab, Eman, Fatma, Bhavna, Vaishnavi, Madiha, Shazia, Navdeep, Satya. Madiha, please switch it on for a longer time. Hello. Hi, Sanam. You were earlier there in my class?
Yes, I was there, ma'am.
समझ आया सब कुछ?
Yes, ma'am. काफी अच्छे से.
Okay, let me have a rapid fire round. ठीक है, use the chat box to answer all the questions. True? करोगे? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Before moving ahead, मैंने रुचिका को बोला है, you can always have my email ID so that if you want to connect, you can connect. Yeah. Okay, so my first question is full form of Noir. Noir.
May I, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please. Write in the chat box.
Oh, okay,
Rapid
ma'am.
fire and writing. Example of nominal scale. Only Ruchika has answered. Okay, Bhavna, right? Nominal ordinal interval ratio. I want all the participation, please. Mr. Navdeep, Ruchika, gender male or female, right? Nominal ordinal interval ratio. Label without order. Nominal ordinal, okay. Done. Example of nominal everyone. So far, you are just giving me the full form. Give me an example. Can somebody explain nominal by using the mic? Manisha has answered. Give number to variables like 0, 1, and 2. Okay. Color red, blue, green. Okay. Ruchika. Types of fruits. Oh God, कहाँ पहुँच गए सब? Okay. So we are just giving the labels. 0, 1, 1, 2 maybe. ठीक है. Example of ordinal. Write a question on the basis of ordinal scale. On the basis of rank, that is yes. Do you think paired comparison is ordinal scale? Do you think paired comparison is ordinal scale? Yes. Rank order? Ordinal is name plus ranking of data.
Rank order will be ordinal.
Rank order will be ordinal. All of you with me? Okay. Do you think constant sum is an ordinal scale? Okay.
No,
Yes.
ma'am. I
Why,
think so.
Manisha? No.
बिकॉज उसमें हम टोटल की रैंकिंग करते हैं ना मैम, टोटल करते हैं. वी आर नॉट गिविंग समवन फॉर सेकंड और थर्ड. हम
Anyone
टोटल.
wants to answer that?
Ma'am, it will be ordinal only because we rank or give the highest number on the basis of our preference, like 50 for the maximum, then 20, 10, and then 10 in that ways.
Yes. So
So,
the maximum point says that is the most preferred thing. The
mhm.
least point says that is the least preferred thing. So somehow we are creating the order according to our preference. So that will come under the ordinal scale. Okay, interval scale. Quickly. IQ scores. Jazir, can you please write the question on it and let me know?
कैसे करना है बीच पे.
Jazir, IQ scale का example please. Do you think Likert scale is an interval scale? Okay, there is a question age in the demographic questions, right? So हम उसमें देते हैं less than 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. Is it a interval scale or the ordinal scale? Think twice before you give the answer. Zainab saying interval scale. Eman saying interval scale. Any other answer than this? Okay, tell me if I say the exact number of age. For instance, I'm 37 years old. So which scale it is? Ratio, interval, ordinal. If I'm saying I'm twice your age, what is this?
Ma'am, that will be ratio.
Okay. If I'm saying 10 to 20, 20 to 30, then
Will be interval scale.
Rashi
If
saying ordinal. Rashi, please tell me why ordinal?
because it is in an order basically, but it
It
can be
is in
interval as
order.
well.
It is in order. Do you not think so? 10 to 20 हम एक रेंज दिखा रहे हैं, 20 to 30 हम एक रेंज दिखा रहे हैं, तो वो एक ऑर्डर फॉलो कर रहे हैं हम लोग. Which is the interval scale?
इक्वल इंटरवल्स होते हैं इंटरवल स्केल में, बट वी डू नॉट इंक्लूड द जीरो. आप
Interval means बीच में जो हमारे gaps हैं वो same हो. So do you think Likert scale is an interval scale? Class, you are
Yes, ma'am.
sleeping now. मजा नहीं आ रहा है ऐसे. Why do you think Likert is an interval scale?
Because somehow we are trying to show that when we're talking about not satisfied and satisfied, so the interval between that, we are somehow trying to say that it's very common, right?
It's
The
very
difference between 2 to 1 and 3 to 2 is similar,
Right. Right.
because we take average also in that, right? With
Now
there is
use
the
your mics and jump into the discussion. Give me an example of paired comparison quickly.
like whose customer service you prefer more, Amazon or Myntra? So
Amazon and Myntra, where you are comparing between two variables. Can you give me an example of Likert scale? I just want to know the Likert scale. Anyone?
So are you happy with the workshop that is being conducted right now? Satisfied, dissatisfied, neutral, or maybe 5 point, we can do 5 point as well.
Okay, नवदीप एक छोटा सा अटेम्प्ट करो, इसको सीक्वेंस में बोल के दिखाओ, रैंडमली नहीं, ठीक है?
Okay. So it's totally disagree, neither disagree nor agree, agree and strongly agree.
Very good. Okay, give me an example of semantic differential. Bhavna, open your mic please and speak.
Ma'am, the example of semantic differential scale would be what about your car service? Is it efficient or insufficient one? What do you think about the product design? It is superior or inferior, like this?
Okay, so what we are doing is we are using the two opposites, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me more about staple scale. Zainab?
When there are positive and negative integers, when there is nothing like neutral,
There is no zero, right?
when there is either negative or positive.
Okay, perfect. Okay, tell me more about rank order. I am Vaishnavi.
Ma'am, it's an order for preference. We do ranking according to the preference.
Any example? Any example?
Coke, Pepsi, Fanta, Thumbs Up, whatever you like the most, you can put it from 1 to 4 or 5.
Okay. So, in a quick example of constant, Madiha. A quick
Can you
example.
repeat?
Yeah, a quick example of constant sum order.
मैम ये था बाय अ कार गिव पॉइंट्स जो होते हैं उसमें फीचर्स स्टाइल कलर प्राइस क्वालिटी.
Okay, then we have to allocate points. The most preferred is given the maximum points.
Yes, ma'am.
Or Ruchika, you will have to mute your mic. I think कुछ problem हो रही है. Okay. Moving on. What is a continuous rating scale? Fatma. Oh, Dr. Fatma. Sorry. Okay. So we have Sadika. Bhavna, just a second. Sadika. Okay, Rashi. Rashi, tell me.
It is like a continuous scale from 1 to 10, in which you can question like how frequent you travel by air. So you can rate it in a continuous series of 1 to 10.
In a continuous series of 1 to 10, where you give the 1 as a adjective and 10 as an adjective. देते हो ना हम उसमें दो extremes में दे देते हैं. right? Okay. So anything we are left with in the designing of the questionnaire? Can you tell me what are the demographic questions quickly, Manjula? She's not there. मंजुला की अटेंडेंस मत मार्क करना, ठीक है? वृंदा?
Ma'am, age and gender, ma'am, occupation, marital status.
Okay, these are the demographic questions. Okay, one thing more. What is the subject? Yeah, who are the subjects?
Respondents.
रिस्पोंडेंट्स और जो लोग बेसिकली क्वेश्चनर हमारा फिल करते हैं.
And the other term
Sample.
is sample. Simple? So अगर जब हम demographic questions पूछते हैं तो do we know the characteristics of the sample? और उन characteristics के basis पे भी हम कुछ कर सकते हैं, right? For instance, different age group का क्या perception है through some tests? Yes. So the entire questionnaire is divided into part A and part B, where part A defines your demographic questions and part B takes care of the objective of the study. I gave you the example of I want to know the satisfaction level of people who are the Uber riders, right? So now I can start my questions from name, age, gender. I can do that. Maybe I can ask them their occupation. I can go with part B. क्या क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए? Do you use taxi services? Yes or no? I can open with that. Then I can move on to do you use Uber services? How frequently you use Uber services? Then I can use a scale. Right? Always, often, always, whatever the range is. To monthly, weekly, fortnightly, daily. ऐसे भी हम scale use कर सकते हैं. Right? Then I can ask, are you satisfied with the Uber services? This can be my one question. I can use a scale of satisfaction, highly satisfied, satisfied, neither satisfied, not dissatisfied, dissatisfied, and highly dissatisfied. Yes? Then I can further move on to more questions. So what I'm trying to say is you have to make a transition in your questions. It should be from simple questions to more complex questions. और जो transitions का हमने ध्यान रखना है, I cannot ask your age first and then your name. There should be a proper sequence to the questions. You can always ask open-ended questions. Any suggestions for Uber services? You can always ask the respondent an open-ended questions for the improvement of the services if you are doing a problem-solving research. Yes, Rashi?
Ma'am, what I do feel that demographic questions are important because somewhere, somehow, we should show that we are also interested in the respondent, like their background and their identification, so that it
But
can
Rashi,
be
I
a conversation
cannot-
starter.
Yes, definitely. Yes, as far as our research is concerned, we should only take the inputs which are not very private in nature. For instance, I am really not interested in Rashi's phone number. Why? Because उस phone number से मेरा कोई आंसर नहीं निकलेगा, right? मैं कुछ personal question try avoid asking questions. और मैं इतनी लिबर्टी दूंगी रिस्पोंडेंट को जो भी वो क्वेश्चंस में कंफर्टेबल है. फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर उनको एनोनिमस रखना है अपना रिस्पॉन्स तो हम नेम में भी ऑप्शंस लगा के दे देते हैं, ऑप्शनल करके दे देते हैं. ठीक है, कुछ बैकग्राउंड हमें जानना जरूरी है. व्हाट इज आवर टारगेट सैंपल, उनका बैकग्राउंड क्या है, किन से हम बात कर रहे हैं, हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द स्टडी पे ये डिपेंड करता है.
The occupation and the age group can be important. The name it will
हाँ,
not
जैसे
be.
एज इंपॉर्टेंट है, जेंडर ऑक्यूपेशन इंपॉर्टेंट है, इससे कुछ डिस्क्लोज नहीं हो रही ना इन्फॉर्मेशन अबाउट द रिस्पोंडेंट, प्राइवेट इन्फॉर्मेशन डिस्क्लोज नहीं हो रही. एंड वी हैव टू रियली be very careful while asking questions to the respondents, and the flow of the question should be from simple to more complex questions. I cannot say in the first place, will you recommend Uber services? No, this should be my last question, right? My first question kya hoga? Do you use Uber services? Simple.
Yes, ma'am.
Agar time mile to try to draft a questionnaire, and you can always email me, and you can always come up to me for any queries related to the questionnaire designing. Since ma'am has arrived, so I'll hand over the session to Sadaf ma'am, she'll take over through this. She'll continue, she'll start doing the SPSS. Okay, so I'll just leave the session here, so you can always catch me on my email ID. Thank you so much, and thank you for bearing me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Navdeep, कोई question है?
Thank you.
No, no, ma'am. Just thank. I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. Yes,
Thank
Ruchika.
you.
Ma'am, please
Thank
share your
you.
email ID
Thank you,
in group.
ma'am.
I have
Thank you
already
so
shared.
much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Ma'am
ma'am.
has shared already.
I'll copy again. Please see your chat box.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Okay.
you, ma'am.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to all of you again.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Ruchika.
Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon,
ma'am.
ma'am.
A very good
Afternoon,
afternoon, ma'am.
Aman. Good afternoon, Bhavna,
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Navdeep.
Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good afternoon. I would really love to see your faces once again. Ruchika is the only person who switched on the camera. I can see Aman, I can see Navdeep, Zainab. Zainab, were you there in yesterday's class in the post lunch session? Zainab, थी आप? You were there?
Ma'am, I was there in starting, but there was some network issue,
Uh-huh.
so
Mamta,
I was
ma'am, I
not
can
able
see you.
to.
Acha. Am I audible and visible right now, Zainab? Everything is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
I can see Rashi also. And if some more people can switch on the cameras for just a quick round of interaction before we actually get down to the business of SPSS, a few more people, if you can switch on the camera, I can see many people out here. Manjula, and there's someone by the name of Spencer. We've got Brinda, Prakash, we've got Bhavna. Bhavna ने तो किया था. Banushi Kar, Ramesha Rajput. Just for a quick interaction. Hello, is there, Manish? Uh, the whole point of just asking you to switch on the camera is we would like to have Shazia is there, Fatma Zareen. Nice to see you people. In yesterday's class, I do not know how many people were there in yesterday's session. Can I have a quick round of hand raise so that I know how many people were there in yesterday's session? A quick round of hand raise. Aman was there, Ruchika was there, Rashi was there, Mamta ma'am was there.
Ma'am, Manisha, here I am unable to on my camera because of some reasons.
Doesn't matter, Manisha. You just keep on interacting with me so that I know that you people are there and you're listening to what I'm saying. And in case there's
Sure,
any
ma'am.
problem, you can always ask me. That's the whole point. Other than that,
Sure, ma'am.
it's not required. So, hand raise, acha. So, Banushi was there. Pavna was there, and some of you were not there in the. That's what I'm saying. Some of you were not there in yesterday's class. In yesterday's class, we had taken up two topics. One was the research design, and the other was sampling. And research design is the first step when we start with the research process. It is the blueprint. We had a discussion in the class also that it's a kind of a blueprint which tells me what kind of information is needed, from where can I get that information, and then what do I do with that information or data, how do I analyze that data. So right from your problem identification to your collection of data, which I hope everybody understands, we can have primary data as well as secondary data, right? Everybody has got the clarity of both sets of data. Just Am I audible?
Now you're audible. Now you're
Acha,
audible.
beach mein I was not audible. Till which point was I audible, Ruchika?
Ma'am, we were discussing about the data set that. Okay.
Anybody else who can tell me till which point was I audible, because I was talking about the design and then I was talking about sampling. So am I audible right now?
Till research design, you have just given
Fair
the.
enough, fair enough. So we had a discussion on research design. I was asking, are you people clear about the three kinds of research design? We had a discussion on exploratory research design, descriptive research design, and causal research design. There are three kinds of research design, and we also summarized that whenever we are starting with a new research, the word exploratory is derived from the word exploration. So whenever we are new to a particular field of research or the topic is completely new, wherein we do not know the variables of study, we start with exploratory research design. When we have a clarity about the variables, we've got an understanding as to what is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable, and our objective is to somehow link those variables, we come down to descriptive research design. And then I had told you that causal research design is based on what? What are the causal research designs based on? Which is the most popular technique used in causal research? Anybody? Ruchika, do you have any?
There
Like
is a kind
lab,
of cause and effect
lab
relationship is causal.
experiments.
Right. So whenever you're talking about causal research design, obviously it is talking about cause and effect. So it is usually talking about experimental base, wherein either we are doing a field experiment or we are doing a lab experiment. And I had shown the slides pertaining to the same. Then we had started off with sampling, right? And anybody very quickly can recapitulate what was covered in sampling. Why am I talking about sampling again before starting with SPSS? Because see, the whole purpose of using SPSS is that I want to do a quantitative analysis, I want to do hypothesis testing, right? And for hypothesis testing, I need to feed in the data in the software first. While I'm feeding the data, I should have a clarity of two things which are very, very important. Please understand two things which are very important before choosing the kind of test. See, statistics is something because of all these softwares. No, you've got SPSS, you've got MOS, then you've got Smart PLS, you've got NVivo. So, with the help of softwares, the analysis has become very easy. So what is happening is that many researchers use statistical test without even making sure whether it's a relevant test or not, whether it should be used under those circumstances or not. For any kind of test, you will be having sessions with Professor Saidun from tomorrow onwards, wherein she'll be taking up all the inferential statistics, all the hypothesis testing, right from t-test, ANOVA, correlation, regression, to your non-parametric test like Mann-Whitney, Kruskal-Wallis, right? To maybe predictive analysis, depending upon how fast you people are able to keep pace with us. So before starting with all those tests, there are certain things that should be very, very clear to you. Whether you should use a particular test is dependent upon two, three things. Any idea which you have before using simple test? बहुत common test होते हैं, T test. You must have heard about the test. How many of you, again, a quick raise of hands, how many of you have got a basic understanding of the test like t-test, ANOVA, correlation, regression? Do you have any understanding? I'm not going to ask you to solve any questions. I'm not going to ask you in depth, but just for my understanding as to from where do we need to start. Do you have any idea of the test like t-test or the ANOVA
Yeah.
or correlation regression? Have you people seen these tests in any research
Yes, ma'am.
papers?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, so you'll find that these are one of the most commonly used tests. Like t-test is the most commonly used test, then you've got ANOVA, you've got correlation, you've got regression. But the point is that many a times the basic conditions of using these tests are not there, and still we are using these tests. These tests come under the category of parametric test. Either you can write it down, or when you actually start doing it tomorrow, you can write it down then. The statistical tests that we use for hypothesis testing, they are categorized under two broad categories. One is the parametric test and the other is the non-parametric test. Do you have, Navdeep, do you have any idea of parametric versus non-parametric test? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
You have. So parametric test के अंदर आता है टी टेस्ट, अनोवा, कोरिलेशन, रिग्रेशन. देखते हैं कि ये बहुत commonly used test है. But there are certain conditions that my data set should meet, then only I can apply these tests. Do you have any idea of the conditions or assumptions that we take before using these parametric tests like t-test or ANOVA or correlation or regression? There are certain essential conditions that my data set should depict. Data set का मतलब है the data that I have collected through the survey. तो क्या क्या होता है, कुछ आइडिया है क्या क्या conditions होती हैं?
Ma'am, one condition is that if there is some numbers in your research, right, then you can use parametric test. But when you're conducting some detailed interviews, for example, conducting an interview of a rape victim, then you cannot use parametric test. You will require.
Here we are getting a little confused. We are talking about qualitative data versus quantitative data. When you said numbers, no, you're talking about quantitative data. So hypothesis testing is done on quantitative data only. Right, qualitative data that we collect from either interviews, as you said, or it could be a focus group discussion, or it could be projective technique. बहुत सारी techniques होती हैं wherein we are getting data which is qualitative in nature. Right, it can be a long prose, it can be a paragraph of responses. Right, it can be clear in this session is all the data that is pertaining to qualitative or subjective analysis or conversations or content, it is qualitative data, it is not quantitative data. The data that we are going to use in SPSS is quantitative data. Quantitative का मतलब क्या है? The data which is in numbers. It can be a frequency count. It can be numbers that are derived from the questionnaire. We'll see. Abhi Shikha ma'am was covering all the aspects of questionnaire designing, and I was making notes so that I can help you out with that. That whenever you're making a questionnaire, again the questionnaire can have two sets of questions. They can be open-ended questions and they can be closed-ended questions. Are we clear about both the sets of questions? What are open-ended questions? I'm going to link questionnaire, the questions in the questionnaire, the sampling process with the test first, and then only we are going to start with SPSS. See, starting with SPSS without having the background information of what kind of scale have I used, what kind of test can I apply, it is just a rampant use of a software. It will not serve the purpose. So we need to have a clarity. Agar hamara open-ended questionnaire hai, can anybody give me an example of an open-ended question? Any open-ended question. What is the meaning of open-ended?
If the question is gives suggestions for
their experience with the hotel, or I can ask them to rate it. Ki rate my services on hygiene, rate my services on responsiveness, rate my services on empathy, rate my services on ambient conditions, right? So जब मैंने उनको rate करने को बोला और star rating दे दिया 1 to 5 star, everybody is very very familiar with the idea of the star rating, right? That is a close-ended option that I've given. When I'm asking them to give me a subjective response of 1 or 2 sentences about the feedback, it is an open-ended questionnaire, right? So we can have open-ended questions also, we can have close-ended questions in the questionnaire, but the data that we use, the kind of questions that we use in SPSS is the close-ended one. Because the open-ended questions would be requiring a subjective analysis. वहाँ पे SPSS का use नहीं होता है. वहाँ पे we are using a more subjective way of doing it. NVivo use कर सकते हैं, different softwares use कर सकते हैं to do a content analysis or a sentiment analysis. So first of all, in your questionnaire, the questions which are pertaining to close-ended options, close-ended can be, as I was looking at it, the demographic profile of the respondents, right? You can have multiple questions under demographic profile and it is all close-ended. Indicate your gender, right? Male, female, transgender. Indicate your age, indicate your occupation, indicate your income, right? All these, when you are providing the options to choose from, they are close ended. उसके अलावा मैंने देखा कि that Shika ma'am was also talking about the rating scales, right? And she was also talking about the interval scales. So I hope all the kinds of scales are clear to you people uh, during this whole discourse with Shika ma'am. Is it clear? She must have talked about open ended versus close ended. That I hope is clear to everybody. Open ended versus close ended, is it clear? Just a quick
Yes,
hand
ma'am.
raise. It
Yes,
is
ma'am.
clear. Then within the category of close ended questions, we can have a dichotomous kind of question. We all understand dichotomous questions. What are dichotomous questions? Having two
Yes,
responses, right?
like
Uh,
yes or no.
like yes and no,
Yes or no?
right? We can have nominal questions, the questions which are measured on a nominal scale. What are the questions that are measured on nominal scale? Nominal.
Grading.
Like
Nominal.
like gender, male, female.
Right. Whenever the responses or the numbers that we are assigning, they are sheer labels. वो लेबल होते हैं बस, उसको हम नॉमिनल स्केल कहते हैं. It is not representative of any comparison. It is not showing any other thing rather than the characteristic. So when I say indicate your gender, and I have given three options: males, females, and transgender. And when it comes to providing number coding, I give 1 to male, and I give 2 to female, and I give 3 to transgender. 1 to 3 is a sheer label that I am providing. 1 का मतलब है I am talking about a male respondent, 2 का मतलब है I'm talking about a female respondent, and 3 का मतलब है I'm talking about a transgender respondent. I am not saying that 1 means best, I am not saying that 2 means stronger. You understand? When they are sheer labels. So whenever you're talking about say gender, whenever you're talking about geographical location of an individual, you're talking about race of a person, you're talking about religion of a person, you're taking these kind of informations pure nominal scale, right? But when we start taking responses which are showing you a kind of comparison, you're comparing the things and then providing the rank, तो हमारा rank order या ordinal scaling आ जाता है, right? उसका example क्या है? Age is a kind of a ordinal scaling. You understand? Whenever you're giving the brackets of age, less than 18, 18 to 25, 25 to 35, more than 35, and you're giving 1, 2, 3, 4 to these different brackets, it is showing you a progression. This is ordinal scaling. Whenever you're
Ma'am,
showing
why can't do internal scale as well when you
Rashri, a little louder, please.
why it can't be interval scale, ma'am? Because we are having the interval to brackets as well.
Again.
Actually, I'm asking why we can't say that it is in interval scale as we are talking about the intervals whenever we are talking about age.
See,
You're asking.
whenever we are talking about interval scale, we say that in interval scale, the distance between the responses is that of a unit, right? एक fixed interval है, जैसे कि उन्होंने बताया होगा कि we've got a Likert scale, right? And in a Likert scale, we start with strongly disagree, then neutral, agree, and strongly agree. And we say that whenever we are giving numbers to this scale, we give 1 to strongly disagree, 2 to disagree, 3 to neutral, agree को फिर हमने 4 दिया and strongly agree को हमने 5 दिया. ठीक है? अब 1 2 3 4 5 में एक यूनिट इंटरवल का डिफरेंस है, राइट? और हमने कहा इन रिस्पॉन्सेज में भी एक यूनिट इंटरवल का डिफरेंस है. अब आ जाओ तुम आ जाओ परसेंटेजेस पे. एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल लो. देयर इज अ क्लास, right? And in a class, we are providing the order or ranks to the students. We are providing ranks to the students based on their percentages, right? So in a class of 40, there'll be a person who gets first rank, there'll be a person who's getting the second rank, and then the third rank, and then the fourth rank. ठीक है? अब 1 2 3 4 क्या है? This is ordinal scaling. This is telling me the order of the data. Order का मतलब है first का मतलब है best performer. Second का मतलब है a little less than the first one. But when you talk about the mathematical relevance, first, the person who scored the first rank, maybe he got 90% marks. ठीक है. But the person who got the second rank, he got 85% marks. The person who got the third rank, he got 83% marks. Now when I talk about the difference between the interval, it is not constant, because the difference between the first rank and the second rank was 5%, but the difference between the second and the third rank was just 3%. Maybe the fourth rank वाला बच्चा he got around 79%, 3% का difference हो गया. तो ordinal scales जो होते हैं, they can always tell you the position in a continuum, कि best performer to the worst performer. But when it comes to the differences between the rank, जो mathematical differences between the rank है, it is never uniform. It can vary. ठीक है. अब हमने क्या किया, we had 10 students and we tried to make them stand on the basis of their heights. ठीक है. Lowest height to the person who's the tallest, or vice versa. रैंक तो हम उनको दे देंगे 1 2 3 4 5, but I cannot say that the distance या difference between the height was constant या uniform. It is never. So rank order scaling can tell you the order, but the difference is not uniform. तो जब हमने कहा age, तो हमने कहा less than 18, तो उसमें तो 18 साल आ गए. नेक्स्ट हमने एज ब्रैकेट ले लिया 18 to 25, उसमें कितने आए, उसमें सिर्फ आए तुम्हारे 7 years का. फिर हमने कहा कि 25 to 35, अब डिफरेंस कितना आ गया, 10 का आ गया, राइट. सो व्हेन आई एम प्रोवाइडिंग 1 2 3 4, it is telling me that I am moving from a lower age to a higher age, but it is not telling me that the difference between the ranks, it is constant, right? Similarly, I take income. I'm taking income. I'm putting less than 50,000, giving it the rank 1, right? Then 50,000 to 1 lakh, 2. 1 lakh to 2 lakh, 3. 2 lakh and above, 4. Now, by looking at the data, you can understand that 1 का मतलब है low income group, 4 का मतलब है high income group. But the difference of the income is not there. It is not uniform. That is why it is ordinal in nature. और इसी income को आप अगर exact terms में लिख दो, my income, I may exaggerate, is 1,70,000 rupees, right? It becomes a ratio scale then. Somebody else's income is just 50,000. या फिर my income is 1 lakh per month and somebody else's income is 50,000 per month. So it is just the double, no? It becomes a ratio scale. The same data, how it is collected and presented, it is going to tell you the kind of scale which is being used. When we use exact numbers, my age as on today, in years, months and days, it becomes a ratio scale automatically because I am using exact numbers here. But when I plot it in the form of a bracket, age bracket, no, less than 18 years, 18 to 20 years, 30 years and above, right? So I get in the third bracket. So that's the difference between ordinal and ratio scale. Once you'll start doing it, no, the things will become very, very clear to you. But the point here is that when I'll be taking you through the SPSS, I'll repeat everything. But the idea here is that many of the tests, like the t-test we said, or the ANOVA, or the correlation or regression test, they require higher order scaling. If in case you make a questionnaire which is totally nominal in nature, nominal का मतलब है कि initially you asked about the demographics and you had all the dichotomous responses, yes no, yes no, yes no, right? So you've designed a questionnaire which is totally nominal in nature. Then the problem will arise that you cannot use the different tests. You cannot use even the t-test or ANOVA test there. Because for carrying out parametric test, there are 3-4 essential conditions that your data set should meet. So I will suggest you can write down those essential conditions for carrying out the parametric test. Although all these things will be taken up by Saidun ma'am tomorrow also. But just write it down because you've just gone through scaling. The things are clear in your mind. So just put it down. For carrying parametric test, the data should be at least ordinal or interval. In most of the cases, the data should be interval in nature. Nominal नहीं हो सकता है, right? Any problems pertaining to this particular condition, that the data that I have measured in the questionnaire, it should at least, what I'm trying to say is it should be at least on the Likert scaling. जो हमारा agreement, disagreement, satisfaction versus dissatisfaction का scale था, उस पे होना चाहिए. That's the interval scale. Although in true sense, even Likert scaling is not an interval scale, but for all the practical purposes in behavioral sciences, Likert scale, semantic differential scale, staple scales, they are categorized under interval scale. Otherwise वो भी ordinal में ही माने जाते हैं अगर आप true sense में देखो. लिख लिया? Have you people written it down? That the data should be collected either on ordinal, mostly on interval scale. Many of the tests require the data to be collected on an interval scale. And obviously ratio scale पे all the tests can be applied. Then second, the data should be normally distributed. The second condition for carrying the parametric test is that the data should be normally distributed. I hope all of you understand what is the normal distribution. Do you have an idea as to what is the normal distribution or what is the shape of a normal distribution curve?
Ma'am, it is bell shaped.
It is bell-shaped curve.
Which never touch the x-axis on both the sides.
Yeah. So maximum data and responses come in the middle and then they taper on the end, right? So it's a normal distribution curve. And the third is, which again is very important, I'm not going to devote too much of time because once I start speaking, no, I find that I run short of time. The third condition is, which is very, very important, that the data should have been collected by means of probability sampling. That is why whatever was covered in the last class on sampling techniques, it becomes very, very important even for carrying out your SPSS analysis. What I'm saying is that the data should have been collected through probability sampling. Most of the time, 90% of the time, our data is not able to meet all these necessary conditions. Right? Do you agree with me or not? It would really help अगर कोई सवाल पूछो या कुछ बताओ. Do you agree to what I'm saying? Many a times what happens in at least consumer behavior study, which we do, we find that it's very, very difficult to have a probability sampling. You understand? Probability sampling क्यों मुश्किल होती है कोई बताएगा? Why is it so difficult to have a probability sampling while data collection is happening? Why do you think it's difficult to have a probability sampling technique? Please feel free to ask questions or to talk. I don't know why you people are all quiet when I'm taking this session.
It is difficult to target the exact number, not exact, but the number of respondents.
वो तो सैंपल साइज की बात हो गई रुचिका. अभी जो मैं पूछ रही थी वो मैंने कल भी बताया था आप लोगों को कि फॉर कैरिंग आउट प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग का क्या मतलब होता है? ईच एंड एवरी इंडिविजुअल इज हैविंग इक्वल चांसेस ऑफ बीइंग इलेक्टेड. ये कब होगा? व्हेन आई हैव गॉट अ सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम. अनलेस एंड अंटिल आई हैव गॉट अ डेटाबेस which comprises of all the individuals, 100% population of interest, how can I say that every individual was having equal chances of being selected? कई बार क्या होगा, कुछ लोगों का नाम ही नहीं होगा सेट में. कई बार लिस्ट में ऐसे लोगों का नाम होगा who do not exist at all, right? So it's very, very difficult to have a composite list of all the people, which is known as a sampling frame. And once the sampling frame is not there, which will happen in most of the cases of marketing researches and consumer behavior studies, you are not able to tick box this particular condition of parametric test. हमारा पहला condition जो था कि भाई we should have collected the data by means of a probability sampling, we failed over there. Secondly, कई बार हो सकता है कि हमारा data जो है it does not come out to be a normally distributed data. Second cross, I cannot have the t-test. Third, if I've collected the data on nominal and ordinal scale only, then obviously again I cannot run the parametric test. What I'm trying to tell you here is that many of times the researchers in the field of behavioral sciences, they get stuck over here. So what is the alternative available to us? We go for the non-parametric test. And for every test that you can possibly think, there's a non-parametric version of it. So if I'm not able to apply the t-test, I can apply the Mann-Whitney test. If I am not able to apply the ANOVA test, I can apply the Kruskal-Wallis. If I am not able to apply the correlation test, which is a Pearson correlation, I can have a Spearman correlation. So SPSS has made provision to have all the non-parametric tests because behavioral scientists, they were able to understand that the kind of data that we get, it is not able to fulfill all the conditions to carry out the parametric test. Is it clear? Do you have any questions up till here? What I am trying to tell you is that two things are very, very important before carrying out hypothesis testing. First is I need to understand what sampling technique did I use. Did I use a probability sampling technique or a non-probability sampling technique? Second, what kind of scales were used in my questionnaire? Did I have interval scale or ordinal scale? Then obviously I can go ahead with the parametric test. But in case my scale is that of a nominal nature, then I cannot use a parametric test. ठीक है, ये दोनों conditions होती and obviously normality of the data that you've collected. When all these three things are clear in your mind, then you can decide what kind of test can we use. Is it clear? Please ask me any questions if you have questions. Just two sampling techniques were left. I will very quickly share the slide and show you the sampling technique. We had taken up simple random sampling. We had taken up systematic random sampling in the probability sampling technique. And in the non-probability sampling technique, we had taken convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, and your snowball sampling. Right, just two sampling techniques which were left. I will brief you and I'll just very quickly show you the slide, and then at 4 o'clock, I hope, how many, again I would like to have a hand raise, how many of you are having software, SPSS software installed in your systems? Rashi, Ruchika, Ramisha, and I cannot see more, Bhavna. What about the other people? Shazia, do you have the SPSS software with you? Sangeeta, Sadhika, Aman. I can see many people. Navdeep, Nitya. Please, I would really appreciate if you people can unmute yourself and let me know the status when it comes to your availability of SPSS, because I will be showing you the basic interface of SPSS today just to familiarize you with the interface, and then tomorrow onwards we are going to work around it. So Mahalakshmi, Shazia Khan, can you please unmute yourself? Rashi, you have SPSS?
Yes, ma'am. I do have.
And what about Shazia? Shazia Khan is there?
Ma'am, I don't that software.
Shazia, I would suggest वो एक जो free downloadable version है, please get that version. It's freely available for 1 month for the students. You can get the students thing.
Ma'am, I have downloaded SPSS software, but it is not working. Login में problem हो रही है.
अब्दुल्ला सर भी हैं यहाँ पे, इसीलिए मैं कह रही हूँ, the people who tried to have SPSS, Abdullah, you can come and sit here. In case people, उसमें मत आप वो मत करना, unmute मत करना, otherwise there will be echo. Abdullah sir is there to help you out in case somebody is having any problems when it comes to the free downloadable version. You can ask Abdullah and I'll pass on the system to him. कर सकते हो? There's a version which Dr. Abdullah is having. He can send you. अगर किसी और को problem है. What about the other people? Banashri, Kar and Mamta and Spencer Hastings, Navdeep, Nitya.
Ma'am, I have the SPSS in my system.
The SPSS. What about Madiha, Shikil? We can place the link of one of the.
No, ma'am, I don't have.
Madiha, do you want to download it? Because we can put it in the message and you people can try downloading it in the meanwhile. Do you have systems with you people? Do you have a laptop or PC on which you're working, or you're accessing the meeting through the smartphone? Hmm? And then we've got Sandhya and Sadia, and there is one IWC Commerce. Shirley, do you have SPSS? We can always post the link and you people can try. Please let me know where the problem is. Satya Maran Madiha, because see, I can start with the interface, but unless and until you people uh, have the SPSS, how will you do it? Sadhika Parveen, what do you want me to do? डाउनलोडिंग प्लीज डाउनलोड इट अच्छा एक दो तब तक मुझसे एक दो चीजें जो मेरे दिमाग में आई थी वो भी मैं डिस्कस कर लेती हूँ टिल दैट टाइम फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अपार्ट फ्रॉम द सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक्स दैट वी डिस्कस टू सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक्स व्हिच आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड वर्थ pondering upon. One is quota sampling, the other is stratified sampling. Do you people have any idea as to what is the meaning of quota sampling and stratified sampling? Because again, see, whenever you're writing your papers or you are doing writing your thesis, this is one link that Tomina ma'am has shared on the message. Those who are not having SPSS, they can click on this particular link and download SPSS. So I was saying that whenever you're writing a paper, research paper, or you're writing your thesis, if you say that you've used a convenience sampling technique, it is not taken very well by the examiners, because convenience sampling is not at all a sampling technique. Any person you send the questionnaire. Judgmental sampling again is considered to be a lower order sampling, not very good. So many a times it makes a lot of sense to use quota sampling or stratified sampling. Does anybody have any idea of quota sampling or stratified sampling? Anybody?
Ma'am, Manisha,
Yes.
your stratified sampling is a kind of probability sampling.
Right.
In
Yes.
stratified sampling, we divide the whole population in some groups and each group called strata, and
Nice.
out of them some groups are selected as a sample randomly. This is
ठीक है,
called
very nice.
stratified sampling.
Right. Both the sampling techniques, Navdeep, do you have any idea of stratified versus quota sampling? Because somehow in my session all the cameras they are closed and people stop talking. Hey Ruchika,
Yes,
what's the
yes,
problem
ma'am.
there?
I do know the difference between stratified and
Quota
cluster
sampling.
sampling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
So
is the
basically, in stratified sampling, what you do is so let me tell you first about the cluster sampling. So you make different
No, we'll
clusters
not go to
basically.
cluster sampling. We'll talk about quota versus stratified first, because if you start with cluster sampling, people are going to get confused. It's better if we have, see, quota sampling and stratified sampling, they are very similar to each other. The only difference is that quota falls under the category of non-probability sampling and stratified sampling falls under the category of probability sampling. So it would be better if you start with quota sampling, the things will be clearer to the audience then. What is the meaning of quota sampling and how do you do that? या फिर रुचिका, तुम्हें पता है quota sampling क्या होती है?
Ma'am, in quota sampling, it is non-probability sampling, और
That is
जो researcher होगा, the researcher basically divides the population into subgroups on the basis of characteristics like age और gender हो गया, income हो गया, और उसके बाद they select the मतलब people on the basis of a certain number
yes.
करके
Yes,
उनको
yes. Hold on that thought. So what Ruchika said, and she said it very correctly, that as the name is suggesting, we need to remember both quota sampling and stratified sampling. They are two stage sampling. और सारी सैम्पलिंग वन स्टेज होती है, ये दोनों टू स्टेज कहलाती हैं. क्यों? बिकॉज इन कोटा सैम्पलिंग स्टेज वन इज दैट यू आर डिवाइडिंग द होल पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इनटू सब ग्रुप्स. Now you can divide the population on the basis of gender, you can divide the population on the basis of age, or on the basis of education or income, whichever is making sense in your particular study. Supposedly I am talking about stress and gender. right? Whether both the genders, they react in the same way to a stressful situation, right? Because my previous studies have shown that males and females, they react differently to a stressful situation. So now it is making a lot of sense for me to divide my population into all males in one quota and all females in the other quota, and then take equal representative sample from both the groups. Or I'm doing a study on online buying behavior, and I have seen that based on age group, the people react differently. So again, it's very convenient for me to divide the whole population on the basis of age, just to find whether the younger population is indulging in more online shopping behavior or the older one. So depending upon your particular study, you will decide what kind of segregation can be there. But in quota sampling, the first stage would be division of the population into quota, and the second step would be you are going to choose the people from all the different quotas. And that is why it is a non-probability sampling, because in the second stage the researcher is choosing the people. As against that, in stratified sampling, what happens, Navdeep? What happens in stratified sampling?
So, in stratified, I suppose that we pick the whole strata instead of picking some people from the stratas. Again, we are going to divide the like on the basis of demographics or gender, or likewise, we are going to make different stratas, right? And then maybe we'll do either, if I remember correctly, we'll do either random sampling in that, or we pick the whole stratas.
Right.
So I think random sampling.
Yeah, random sampling. तो हम क्या करते हैं? In the first step, we divided the population into exclusive groups. Again, maybe gender is the criteria of segregation, so I divided the whole population into a all male group and all female group. I'll give you an example. I want to choose people for a particular event, and I want equal representation of the girl students as well as the boy students. So I divide my class into two stratas. One strata would be all the girl students of the class, and the other strata would be all the boy students of my class. Now, in the second step, instead of choosing the girls and boys on my own, I do a simple random sampling. I do a lottery of all the girl student, pick it up on a random basis. I do a again lottery of all the boy student, and I pick it up. Simple random sampling in the second stage, and that is why it is categorized under probability sampling. What we need to remember is, in both kinds of sampling, the first step, we are dividing the population into exclusive groups. In the second step, we are nominating people, either choosing them on our own, which is quota sampling. And if we do a random sampling, we can also do a systematic random sampling in the second stage. But we need to have a sampling frame. प्लीज रिमेंबर, बार बार मैं बोलती हूँ, अपने स्टूडेंट्स को भी बोलती हूँ, आप लोग लिख लो, याद कर लो, रैंडम सैम्पलिंग करने के लिए ऑफ एनी काइंड यू नीड टू हैव अ सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम. एंड सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम इज नथिंग बट अ लिस्ट और डेटाबेस ऑफ ऑल द पॉपुलेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट एलिमेंट. जब भी मेरे पास लिस्ट होगी, उस लिस्ट से मैं बाय लॉटरी और बाय सिस्टमैटिक रैंडम सैम्पलिंग चीजों को लूंगी. इट बिकम्स अ प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक. अदर देन दैट, इट इज नॉट प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग. It is a non-probability sampling technique. And why is it so important to understand? Because for parametric test, you need to have probability sampling. In case you're not having probability sampling, you need to resort to non-parametric test. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Ma'am, but in our research, like if we will gather questionnaires, so I think it will be on the basis of quota sampling only.
कोटा सैम्पलिंग अगर होगी ना, तो फिर यही तो कह रहे हैं, देन इंस्टेड ऑफ यूजिंग पैरामेट्रिक टेस्ट यू कैन यूज नॉन पैरामेट्रिक टेस्ट. माय होल थीसिस वाज बेस्ड ऑन नॉन पैरामेट्रिक टेस्ट because I did my study in rural consumer behavior. By no means could I have done a probability sampling. I had done a snowball sampling. एक के साथ दूसरे के पास जाती थी. This is how I gathered the data of 830 people, because it was totally non-probability in nature and my scale was also ordinal. मैंने कहीं पे interval scale नहीं यूज कर पाई थी because could not complicate the whole questionnaire for the rural population. It has to be very, very simple so that they're able to understand. So my scale was just a 3-point scale. It was talking about involvement of people in the decision making. So it was नॉट इन्वॉल्व, मॉडरेटली इन्वॉल्व, हाईली इन्वॉल्व, वो भी समझाना बहुत मुश्किल हो गया था रूरल पॉपुलेशन को कि कितना इन्वॉल्व हो रहे हैं वो लोग, राइट. सो व्हेन इट वाज ऑर्डिनल स्केल and I had collected the data by means of non-probability sampling, long time back I had used Mann-Whitney-Kruskal-Wallis. When everybody was using t-test and ANOVA and correlation, I had started using non-parametric test. So depending upon your data you can use non-parametric. And when you talk about PLSM, no, जो आपका वो है smart PLS, in that you can use data which is nominal or ordinal in nature and non-probability से collect किया होता है. So even that is sorted. Even when you want to do a structure equational modeling through PLS, you can use our kind of data. So for all the inferential statistics, non-parametric versions are freely available, and for even structural modeling, smart PLS can be used. So you're sorted for any kind of test. And again, as I said, many of the times your supervisors or your examiners, they are not from the statistics background, right? So many a times you do not get caught. From eternity we've been using t-test, ANOVA, correlation, regression. You will be learning the same. You can apply it in your thesis, but ideally statistically it is not correct. But the examiner is not a statistician, no. He's a person from management who is learning, has done SPSS, right? तो नहीं पकड़े जाते, but आपको understanding होनी चाहिए. You should have a clarity of the kind of test, and then you should have a justification for the same. अपनी thesis में you should be able to justify each and everything by the previous data. Why did you use this particular scale rather than the other? Previous data. Why did you use this particular sampling technique rather than the other? Previous data. Why is the sample size not this large? Previous data. Whatever you do and write in your research paper and in your thesis, make sure it is backed up by previous data from good journals. If you are able to substantiate whatever you, it cannot be that I wanted to do it, this is how my gut feeling instructed me. No, there is nothing like a gut feeling, or this is the way I wanted to do it, or it was very convenient for me, that is why I chose a particular thing. No, everything that you're doing in research, it has to be backed up by certain good research work which was previously done. Otherwise you're going to get stuck by your examiners or by the reviewers in your journals. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll share the presentation with you people. I'll give it to Tomina ma'am and she's going to share the presentation because abhi 4-7 ho gaya hai. So I will not open up the presentation. I think should I start with SPSS or should I run through the sampling wala presentation? Whatever you people want. I have got another class with you people in the morning. So my idea was that at least एक बार interface, I should be able to show you the interface of SPSS. Provided you people are clear about scaling and you people have got a clarity with respect to sampling. All the things are there in my slides. I share it with you. You can go through it today and you can ask questions tomorrow also. So should I start with this? I need to get the response. अच्छा, एक और इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज, कई बार ये भी होता है ना कि हमारी सैम्पलिंग, वी आर यूजिंग अ जजमेंटल सैम्पलिंग और अ कन्वीनियंस सैम्पलिंग बिकॉज वी डू नॉट हैव द इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ द रिस्पोंडेंट्स. सो हाउ डू आई मेक श्योर दैट द राइट काइंड ऑफ पीपल आर फिलिंग अप माई क्वेश्चनर? सो देयर इज द ऑप्शन ऑफ फिल्टर क्वेश्चंस. So you need to remember, in case you are using a judgmental sampling or a convenience sampling for writing a research paper, maybe not for your thesis, but you're writing a research paper and there's a paucity of time and you do not have a clarity of who to send your questionnaire. So you send your questionnaire to the people who were there in the WhatsApp group, or you are close to those people. So then always make sure that you put a filter question. I remember Shikha ma'am also talking about it. So in case I'm talking about say social media addiction, or I'm talking about financial literacy, or I'm talking about online shopping behavior, and I'm just presuming that everybody is indulging in online shopping nowadays, everybody is there on social media very active, everybody is having is financially literate. I'm keeping this assumption in my mind and I'm sending my questionnaire to every person on my list of contacts. I need to make sure whether that person actually knows that phenomena or not. Right? Why is it so important? Because many a times I get questionnaires pertaining to financial literacy. whether I know about my investment, I know about the different saving schemes, do I invest in mutual funds? Because of my demographic profile, that I'm a teacher at Jamia Hamdard and I'm earning well, people assume that I will be financially literate and I would be knowing about my investments, but I am not knowing anything about investment. I do not have any idea about mutual funds. So if you send me a questionnaire pertaining to same, I'm not the right respondent for you. Or maybe you're talking about social media engagement and you feel that I would be on certain social media accounts because of my demographic profile. Again, you're wrong, because I am not there on any social media platforms, right? So many a times when we assume that this particular person is the right person to give me the responses, I may not be. So what do? You put a filter question in the beginning of your questionnaire. So your after demographic profile, your question would be, are you there on any social media platforms? Yes, no, right? Which particular social media platform you're active on? Options. How frequently do you spend time? Then you start asking questions about engagement, because on the second question itself, I'll say no. You'll say, are you active on any social media platform? I'll say no. Then it would be, why not? End of the story for me. I'm not going to move ahead with your survey now. या फिर, do you invest? Do you have any idea? Have you invested in mutual funds? I'll say no. So again, the box is not ticked and I'm not going to move ahead with the survey. So this is what is meant by a filter question. Always put a filter question after the demographic profile for whichever study you're doing. Filter questions are very very important. ठीक है, अभी आगे कल हम फिर से देख लेंगे अगर आपको कुछ प्रॉब्लम होगी in terms of sampling. But should I start sharing the screen with you people with the basic interface of SPSS? Just 15 minutes. We are going to wind it up later on. In case you want to ask any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I'll start sharing screen. And as I can see, only 4-5 people are having SPSS. Make sure that you people are having SPSS. The link is being shared. And please download SPSS so that tomorrow at least we are all set to put in the data, understand the data, and start with the descriptive analysis. So I'll start sharing the screen with you people. I won't be able to see you now. So in case you are stuck anywhere, you have any queries, please ask the question. Do not put it in the message box. I won't be able to see the message also, right? So I'm going to share the screen now. Let me know if it is visible. In case anybody was stuck, Abdullah sir, I made him sit over here just to help you people with the download of SPSS, but nobody had any concern queries. So is my screen visible to you people? It's visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'll start first with the interface of the software only. We are just explaining how does SPSS appear, what are the different facets of SPSS. So the people who are having SPSS with you, please click on the software so that this kind of window is visible to you people. The people who are having SPSS, please do it right now and let me know if this window is there in front of you. I'll wait till you people revert.
Yes, ma'am, it is there.
Right? So you have, yes. Anybody having any problems? Please do ask. Should I move ahead? Please say yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So when you open up this, this is the new file that I have opened. You'll see that on the left hand side, there are two tabs. One is marked as variable view. The other is marked as data view. Can all of you see it? Towards the extreme bottom left, you've got two tabs. One is the data view. The other is the variable view.
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So on the face of it, you will see that the SPSS interface, the data view, it appears very, very similar to your Excel spreadsheets, right? In Excel also, you've got spreadsheets, you've got certain tabs in the above portion, and then you've got all the rows and columns marked over there, right? So this is one particular interface, very similar to your Excel. The only difference is that in Excel you've got just one interface in which is more like a data view, and you feed in the data over there and get all the graphical representations there. But in case of SPSS, there's another interface by the term variable view. Click on the variable view. Have you people clicked on the variable view?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. When you click on variable, you are telling the software about the questionnaire. You are telling the software about the coding scheme you've used. You are also educating the software regarding the different scales that you've used. Once you do that, then only you can either import the data or feed the data on your own manually. So in the very beginning, you click on the first column which goes by the term name. Please click it. Have you
Yes,
people?
ma'am.
So basically, name, you're going to have the particular question in your questionnaire. Supposedly, the first question of your questionnaire was indicate your gender, right? And we also had a conversation, it must have been discussed by Shikha, that usually for making the respondents more comfortable, less apprehensive, there is no need to ask for their names or their phone numbers or their addresses unless and until it is required for your study. So because the very moment you're going to ask them to give their names and their phone numbers and the personal details, they're not going to give you the right information. So unless and until it is required for the study, do not ask for the personal information. So most probably your questionnaire is going to start with the demographic profile or the demographic questions. So supposedly my first question is indicate your gender. So I can do two things. Either I can write Q1, which is indicative of question number 1, or I can give a simple acronym. Gender का acronym दे दिया, which is GEN, because the first question in my questionnaire was talking about the gender of the respondent. So I just put an acronym which is GEN, and then you put the enter key. Did you people do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Once you do it, by default all the values are there in the system. They are all on the default. You do not need to put them on your own. It comes as it is. Now we are trying to understand each and every column that is there. The second column is type. Now I want to make the software understand whether my data is numeric in nature or it is string in nature. Supposedly you were doing a study wherein a comparative analysis of different companies was done, or a comparative analysis of different banks was done, and you had taken the name of the banks or the companies, then type would have been string. अगर यहाँ पे क्लिक करोगे तो यहाँ पे आपको दिखेगा whether it is numeric, it is string, it is in dollars, right? Usually because we are having a numeric data, we are trying to code everything in numbers. By default it comes to be numeric. Leave it as numeric only unless and until you have provided any string information. String का मतलब नाम. You have used the name of the company or the bank for a comparative analysis. Usually हम 1 2 3 4 use कर रहे होते हैं. So by default it is numeric. Leave it as numeric. Width का मतलब होता है कि how many numbers would be there as the answers to responses. So supposedly 8 का मतलब है I can have a figure up till crores. Usually the kind of studies that we do, it's usually in hundreds, that the sample size would be of 100, the scaling would be from 1 to 7. But in case I'm doing a financial analysis, I'm doing a econometric testing, then the data that I'm using, it could run into crores and more than that. So this width talks about the magnitude of data. So as it is given in default, we leave it in default as 8, that is up till crores. This data can have a particular figure. It can be up till crores. Decimal. When I'm running a test and I get the output right? So I need to tell the software till which decimal place do I need the output. If I put it as 0, then it will give me whole numbers. But because you will see in tomorrow's class, many a times when we are doing the calculation and we want to find the p value, usually we consider p value to be less than 0.05 or less than 0.01. So 0.05, zero five, 0.01, it is at least two decimal places, because if we do not put it as two places, we won't be able to get the whole figure of decimals. So again, default it is 2, you leave it as 2 only, right? So it will give you the response or the output up till two decimal places. Label का मतलब होता है which particular question am I addressing. So either you can copy paste it from your questionnaire. Supposedly you've got a Google form or you've made a soft copy of the questionnaire. Just copy the question and paste it over here. Because I do not have a soft copy, I can type it, indicate your gender. You can either type or you can copy paste. Because I do not have a soft copy of the questionnaire, I have just typed it. It is indicate your gender. Is it clear up till here? You've got any problems up till label? You can ask me.
Ma'am, like you said, initially we have to code like in gender, if it is male, female, so we can code 1, 2. So that coding will come under type.
अभी 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 आएगा, अभी नहीं.
अच्छा,
अभी because
अच्छा,
see, अभी हमने क्या किया, हमने when you had given the questionnaire to be filled up, there they had ticked on male, female or transgender, which was string in nature, right? Then you provided a code to it which was 1, 2 and 3. इसलिए मैंने टाइप में इसको न्यूमेरिक कर दिया. अगर मैं मेल, फीमेल और ट्रांसजेंडर लिख रही होती, then I would have made it string. But because I converted male, female and transgender into numbers, which is 1, 2, 3, that is why the type is numeric here. ठीक है. अब मुझे बताना है कि अगर न्यूमेरिक है तो मैंने वैल्यूज कैसे असाइन करी है 1, 2, 3. तो आई गो टू वैल्यूज नाउ, एंड इन वैल्यूज देयर इज अ ड्रॉप डाउन मेन्यू. जैसे ही क्लिक करोगे ना, एक ड्रॉप डाउन खुलेगा. प्लीज आई कैन ओनली रिक्वेस्ट पीपल टू डू इट अलोंग विद मी सो दैट it is clear. So you'll find a drop down window will open. It has two things, values and labels. Everybody who's got SPSS, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I am doing the numeric coding. So I'll put 1. 1 का मतलब क्या है? Male, right? So I have in my questionnaire the people had ticked on male, but because I am providing a number coding, I provided the number code 1 to the males, and I click on add, which means that 1 males are represented by the numeric code 1. Now the second is females. So I put values, and then the label is female, add. Third, the label is, what is the label? There are various ways of putting it. Sometimes people put transgender, sometimes people prefer not to comment, right? So whatever is there in your questionnaire, you can do it, right? But now it's kind of a mandatory. You will find in all the official government surveys and all, there's a third option always given, right? So I'll put either transgender or I'll put prefer not to comment, right? Once you have put in all the responses, there were just 3 possible responses which were there in my questionnaire. I have put all the responses, then I will click on OK. Once I do that, all the values are very clear. So 1 का मतलब है male, 2 का मतलब है female and 3 का मतलब है transgender. Is it clear up till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay. Now missing का मतलब होता है, many a times you'll find when you're getting your survey done and people are returning the questionnaire, many a times if it is not a requisite field, you're not make it essential, people are going to not provide you the information. So missing data का मतलब होता है, कई बार you'll come across a questionnaire in which all the answers are ticked except for 1 or 2. So you do not have the information regarding. So how do you deal with missing information? We can either leave it as none, or we can provide a number which is otherwise not there in your whole questionnaire. So you can put a dummy number of 9 here, otherwise just leave it as none, right? Column again is very close to the width of the data. So I can have a data figure running into crores. Similarly, in columns, I can have a number which is running in crores. Alignment is nothing but whether you want your data to be aligned on right or left or justified alignment. जो एक typical alignment, it's hardly of any importance when it comes to your analysis. It's just the interface and the look and feel of the output tables that would be generated later on, right? Measure, it is very, very important. Whatever was discussed in the last class, now you're going to use your minds and put it over there. Whenever I am asking the respondents about their gender and giving them the code or the scale of 1 to 3, what kind of scale have I used?
Nominal.
Nominal, very good. So this is nominal. Now this is what you need to do for all the questions in your questionnaire. So supposedly I've got 20 questions in my questionnaire. I need to make this variable view for all the questions. What I'll do is I'll try to have 4-5 questions for different scales, and you can practice it at your homes. Start doing it at your comfort, because tomorrow at least the people who are having SPSS, I'll ask you to share your screens with me, and then I'll see whether you actually did this variable view or not, because the whole point is lost if nobody is doing it along with me. So we have one question, you can make another question on a nominal scaling. Nominal scaling अभी बाद में फिर से करते हैं, एक ordinal scaling का करते हैं. जैसे कि एक मेरा question है age पे, right? So what can I do is I will put the acronym of age, enter. Again, by default everything comes over there. In the labels you're going to put indicate your age, or you can copy paste, right? Now I need to provide the values. Let me know, what do I put in value? What do I put in value? What do I put in labels?
Like 10 to
वैल्यू क्या होगी, लेबल क्या होगा, पहले इसकी क्लैरिटी लाओ. what would be the value and what would be the label? अच्छा चलो, in your questionnaire what were the different categories that you had asked? Simply put, when you are asking the respondents about their age groups, what was the question? The question was indicate your age. What were the kind of responses that you were seeking?
Between 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40.
We can put an interval, or we can simply put an option to put their age.
नहीं, see, if you give them an option to
तो वो ratio है.
एक तो रेशियो हो जाएगा और बहुत ज्यादा फिर आपके पास फ्रीक्वेंट नंबर्स आ जाएंगे. somebody is going to put 13, 12, right, 10, 15, 20, इतनी ज्यादा ऑप्शंस हो जाएंगे. it will be very difficult for you to analyze the data. At the end of the day, we would like to have inferences and analysis when it comes to the bifurcation of age. So instead of asking them to indicate their exact age and then segregating the data into such long numbers, it is better to have age brackets. So as usually whenever we are doing studies for youth, we start with less than 18. Instead of having 10 to 20, you can have it. In case you're doing it for school kids, you can have this age bracket. Otherwise, मैं जो पूछ रही थी value 1 का मतलब क्या है? less than 18 years, right? add. So इसका मतलब क्या है? 1 का मतलब है less than 18 years. पे दूसरा हम क्या कर लेते हैं? 2. What would be 2? Maybe 18 to 25 years. I'm just randomly putting it. 3 का मतलब क्या हो सकता है? Right, and 4 could be is it clear?
And ma'am,
in this, if we take the intervals same, like अगर लिया होता 18 to 28, 28 to 38, then can we put it under interval scale?
यूजुअली इंटरवल स्केल्स में ना एक न्यूट्रल पॉइंट भी होता है, आपने देखा होगा ना, व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट लाइकर्ट स्केलिंग, राइट? एंड इन लाइकर्ट स्केलिंग और in any semantic differential we always have a neutral point, neither agree nor disagree, है ना? यहाँ पे वो नहीं हो पा रहा है, ये continuously rise कर रही है चीज ना, तो because it is showing you a continuous progression, it is better to club it under the order scale. For it's always better to have a more conservative scaling. अगर हम जैसे कि करके हम इसको ऑर्डिनल मान लेंगे, इट इज बेटर रादर देन पुटिंग इट इनटू इंटरवल स्केल. मैंने बताया ना कि मैंने तो इंटरवल को भी ऑर्डिनल मान के चला था, दैट इज अ बेटर वे ऑफ डूइंग इट. तो इसको तुम अगर ऐसे करोगे तो ये यहाँ पे आ गया, एंड नाउ इन मेजर्स यू कैन पुट इट एज ऑर्डिनल. ठीक है. और एक तुम अब इसका कर लो इंटरवल, सो कॉल्ड इंटरवल स्केल, लाइकर्ट स्केलिंग का. तो किसका करें? सेटिस्फैक्शन का कर लो, how satisfied you are with this present FDP. ठीक है. So मैंने करा satisfaction, enter. Now indicate your satisfaction level. You can type, I am not going to type it right now, and then we are going to put the satisfaction level with the current FDP. So one would be highly dissatisfied. अब सही है ना? Right. 2 would be
dissatisfied.
Then it would be neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. Neutral, you can put, है ना? In this way, till the time I've got all the 5 codes generated, I'll keep on adding, right? I'll keep on adding till the times I have given all the 5 responses, and then in the segment of, अभी मैं इसको यहीं पे ओके कर रही हूँ, in this particular measures I'm going to put scale. Scale means that I have used an interval scale. So in this way, what happens is, in case you're having 15, 20, 30 questions, you will have to do it manually. Once you're going to create a variable view for all the questions, go to the data view. When you go in data view, now you can see that the different rows that you had filled up, they're converted into columns. So the first column talks about the gender, age, satisfaction. Similarly, all the questions which were there in your questionnaire, they'll convert into columns here. Is it clear?
Yes.
ठीक है. तो ये क्या हुआ? This I have done manually. I have manually first created the variable view, and then in data view, either I can initially when I did SPSS, I used to manually feed all the information because the questionnaire were in the hard form. I had hard form of the questionnaire, and then I used to manually feed all the data here, which I'm going to brief tomorrow. But now you've got the option of importing the data from the Excel, because when you make a Google form, no, all the data gets compiled into spreadsheets. So what you can do is you can import that spreadsheet in SPSS. So your life becomes easier when you've got the data in the Excel format. So what we are going to do tomorrow is, obviously, I will want you people to work on this variable view for certain questions, for different different questions in the questionnaire. Just a minute. So what we'll do tomorrow is, please try to have a variable view created for certain questions. You can have 2 questions which are measured on nominal scale, another 2 questions that are measured on ordinal scale, another 2 questions which are measured on the interval scale. I'm saying just create the variable view. And tomorrow, first I'll let you know how to import the data in case you've got a Google form and you've got a spreadsheet already there, and how do you work on the variable view then. And I have already shared a full data file with you people, right? It's an exhaustive data file, and we're going to start working on the simple descriptive analysis along with, if in case थोड़ा बहुत हम inferential पे पहुंच पाएंगे तो वो भी देख लेंगे. So two things that we're going to do is, first, it's already there. I'm going to share the PPT. I'll share it with Tomina ma'am, and Tomina ma'am is going to share it with you people. तो आप एक तो ये देख लोगे पूरा का पूरा उस PPT को. In case you are not able to understand anything pertaining to sampling, you can ask me in the morning, and then we'll start from here. We'll start with the variable view, help you in importing the data from the Excel sheet, or how do you manually put the data in the spreadsheet, ये बताएंगे, and we'll do simple descriptive analysis. Okay. So I think your attendance is been marked, and I don't know whether you people were able to understand anything or not. I hope
Ma'am, we were.
you were able to understand some part
Yes,
of it.
ma'am.
In case of any
No, ma'am.
clarifications, I will be there tomorrow, and I will really appreciate अगर आप लोग थोड़ा सा SPSS करके आओ, because I'll be asking people to share their screens. So maybe I will ask randomly anybody to open up their screens and share the spreadsheet with me. Okay. So I'll meet tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We've got a session, and all the best to you. The link was shared initially, no? The attendance link was shared. Somebody's asked. 4:25 the link was shared, and it is closed now. Please be there. Otherwise, you won't be able to mark your attendance. Chalo. Thank you so much. We'll meet tomorrow
Ma'am, how
at
many
11.
questions should be formed?
How many questions? Two questions for every scale. 2 questions on nominal, 2 on ordinal, 2 on interval. That would be all. ठीक है? चलो. The Shikil is
Thank you, ma'am.
happy. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Welcome. Bye.